So I've spent approximately 47 hours watching a guy level up by killing slimes. I've witnessed at least 12 different high school boys accidentally fall face first into strategically placed bosoms. I've seen more beach episodes than an actual lifeguard. And yet, there's a 110 episode space opera sitting on my list that makes Game of Thrones look like a high school debate club. Yeah, I might have messed up. Look, we've all been there, scrolling past actual masterpieces because the art style looked weird, or because it came out before the iPhone was invented. But here's the thing, I finally watched these shows, and now I'm having that special kind of regret where you realise you could have been enlightened 3 years ago, but instead you were watching your 7th isekai about a vending machine. If you're tired of algorithm-fed mediocrity and want to know where the actual gold is hiding, smash that subscribe button, because we're about to excavate some treasures. And if even one of these changes your anime life like they changed mine, we're both winners here. This is 10 anime I regret not watching sooner. Let's get into it. Starting at number 10, Odd Taxi. Here's my embarrassing confession. I skipped this one for months because the thumbnail looked like a kids show about a therapy hippo. One look at those cute animal characters and I thought, ah yes, Zootopia, Slice of Life edition. I'll pass. Turns out, judging anime by their covers is exactly how you miss out on the best mystery thriller since True Detective Season 1. This show is about a 41-year-old walrus taxi driver who gets tangled up in a missing persons case, Yakuza drama, and the dark side of idol culture. And before you say, why are they animals? Just trust me. That's actually part of the twist, and the finale will make you want to rewatch the entire thing immediately. The writing is Tarantino level tight. Every throwaway conversation, it matters. That random comedy duo arguing in episode 2, critical to the plot. It's a clockwork narrative disguised as a quirky taxi show, and I spent the entire runtime feeling like the smartest and dumbest person in the room. Now, I could have been insufferably recommending this to people way earlier, with some of the sharpest dialogue and most satisfying mystery payoffs I've seen in years. But no, I was too busy being scared of cartoon animals. Number 9, Space Brothers. 99 episodes about a guy taking astronaut exams. No mechs, no aliens, no space battles. Just a 30-year-old man trying to catch up to his younger brother who's already on the moon. I know what you're thinking. That sounds like watching C-SPAN but in anime form. And you know what? Younger me thought the same thing. 99 episodes of job applications. That doesn't exactly scream binge-worthy. Younger me was an idiot. This show is a masterclass in inspirational storytelling without being cheesy. It's about the real process of becoming an astronaut, the psychological tests, the teamwork exercises, the engineering problems. And somehow, watching Mutta struggle with imposter syndrome and slowly gain confidence is more gripping than watching Goku scream for 40 episodes. It's proof that you don't need world-ending stakes to tell a compelling story. Sometimes, will this anxious disaster of a man pass his interview is enough. And the fact that this show made me cry over a man successfully putting on a space helmet, that's exactly why I should have watched it years ago instead of whatever forgettable shonen I was binging that season. Number 8, KEMONO no SOUJA. ERIN, aka the Beast Player ERIN, aka the show everyone thinks is for kindergarteners until episode 8 hits you with political assassination. This one looks like it should be airing on PBS between Sesame Street and Reading Rainbow. Soft colours, simple character designs, a girl learning about animals. I took one look at this and thought it was animated by the people who made Heidi. Adorable, right? Wrong. This is a 50-episode high fantasy epic about war beasts, forbidden knowledge, and whether it's ethical to weaponize nature. It's got more world building than most fantasy novels, and the political intrigue could give Legend of the Galactic heroes a run for its money. The protagonist, ERIN, goes from learning basic animal husbandry to accidentally becoming the most dangerous person in the kingdom because she figured out how to make giant griffin dragons that were specifically bred not to be controllable. It's like if Pokemon asked, hey, what if giving children weapons of mass destruction was bad? And here I was, scrolling past it for literal years because of the art style. Turns out this is the fantasy anime I desperately needed when I was tired of Chosen One nonsense. ERIN earns every bit of her knowledge through observation, failure, and compassion. It's beautiful, it's brutal, and I was a fool. Lucky number 7, Cross Game. If you've ever wondered whether a baseball anime from 2009 with character designs from 1985 could make you weep like a baby, the answer is yes. Yes, it can. The first episode of Cross Game is a war crime against emotions. It sets up the most adorable childhood romance you've ever seen, and then, I won't spoil it, but let's just say the show is called Cross Game because you're gonna feel very crossed. The rest of the series follows the protagonist Ko and his frenemy Alba as they navigate high school baseball while living in the shadow of grief. It's not melodramatic, there are no big speeches, just kids throwing baseballs a little too hard and staring at clouds a little too long. And somehow, that's more devastating than any monologue. This is a master's thesis in show, don't tell. Adachi, the creator, trusts you to be emotionally intelligent enough to read between the pitches. But did I give it a chance? Nope. The art style screamed 1980s children's sports show, and I moved right along to whatever seasonal romance was trending. Meanwhile, this perfect blend of sports, grief, and unspoken love was just sitting there, waiting. The disrespect I showed this masterpiece haunts me. Number 6. GANKUTSUOU, The Count of Monte Cristo. Imagine if The Count of Monte Cristo was set in space, told from the perspective of the villain's victim, and animated by someone who just discovered Photoshop layer effects and said, let's crank this to 11. The visual style of this show is insane. The characters' clothing patterns don't move with them. They're like texture-mapped layers, so it looks like everyone is walking through their own outfits. It's like a Gustav Klimt painting had a baby with a kaleidoscope. Now, full transparency, my eyes needed a break after the first trailer. It's a lot. I bounced off this show twice because the sensory overload was real. But beyond the psychedelic visuals, this is a genuinely brilliant adaptation. Shifting the POV to Albert, the naive rich kid who befriends the Count, turns the story into a tragedy where you watch a boy realize his hero is actually a demon wearing his father's sins like a crown. Also, the Count made a literal deal with a demon, so the revenge metaphor is very unsubtle, but in the best way. Once I finally pushed through, I realized this is what happens when you let artists cook without corporate interference. The result is a gorgeous, haunting masterpiece that I absolutely should have trusted sooner. And hey, real quick, if you're discovering some new favourites here, drop a comment with the anime you regret not watching sooner. I need more stuff to add to my ever-growing list of shame. And hit that like button if you've also been personally victimised by your own terrible taste in the past. We're all healing here. Alright, let's keep going. Number 5. Ping Pong the Animation. Let me paint you a picture. It's 2014. I see the trailer for Ping Pong. I think, wow, that looks like it was drawn by someone's left hand during an earthquake. Hard pass. I was so wrong. Ping Pong is directed by Masaki Yuasa, the absolute madman of animation, and it's a sports anime where the sport is actually a metaphor for living an authentic life. Wild, I know. It's about two friends, Peko, the cocky genius, and Smile, the kid who's dead inside, and how table tennis becomes the language through which they figure out who they want to be. There's also Dragon, a champion crushed by pressure, and Kong, a Chinese player seeking redemption. Every character is perfectly written. The animation is intentionally rough, sketchy, and alive. The ball doesn't just move, it warps the frame. The characters don't just play, they explode into motion like kinetic poetry. It's only 11 episodes, and every single one is perfect. But I spent years thinking ugly animation meant bad animation. I was young and foolish, and now I can never watch generic-looking sports anime the same way again. Yuasa ruined me, and I'm grateful. I just wish he'd ruined me sooner. Number 4. ASHITA no JOE 2, aka Tomorrow's Joe 2, aka the show that will make you understand what burning out into pure white ash means, and then cry about it. This is a boxing anime from 1980, directed by the legendary Osamu Dezaki. Here's the thing, it's a sequel, which means you need to watch the first series. That's 70 plus episodes of content from the 1970s just to get to the good part. For the longest time, that felt like climbing Everest just to see the view, so I kept putting it off. But once I actually sat down and committed, I realised I'd been missing out on one of the most beautifully tragic pieces of media ever made. Joe is a boxer who literally cannot stop fighting, even as his brain deteriorates from repeated trauma. It's not glorified, it's horrifying and sublime. He's not chasing victory, he's chasing a perfect moment of total combustion where nothing is left. No regrets, no future. Just white ash. Dezaki's directing style, those freeze-frame postcard memories, the dramatic lighting, the slow zooms, it's cinema. This is what happens when you give an auteur unlimited creative control over 47 episodes. This is the gold standard for sports anime, and every modern boxing show is just a shadow of Joe's bloody, beautiful legacy. And I let it gather dust for years because I was intimidated by the episode count. Shameful. Number 3. The Tatami Galaxy. Okay, confession time. I started this show 3 separate times before I actually finished it. The protagonist narrates at the speed of a caffeinated auctioneer, and if you're reading subtitles, it feels like a reading comprehension test. Add in the art style that looks like a fever dream, and I kept bouncing off it. But the 4th time, I locked in, and it changed my brain chemistry. The Tatami Galaxy is a time loop story about a college student who keeps rewinding his university life, trying different clubs and different choices, desperately searching for the rose-coloured campus life he was promised. Spoiler alert, he never finds it, because it doesn't exist. The show is a gorgeous, chaotic critique of the grass is greener mentality. Every timeline fails because he's so busy chasing an imaginary perfect life that he ignores the messy, beautiful reality right in front of him. The climax, where he's trapped in an infinite maze of tatami rooms, is one of the most visually stunning metaphors for overthinking I've ever seen. The irony isn't lost on me that this show spoke directly to my soul about regret and wasted time, after I wasted time avoiding it 3 separate times. The universe has a sense of humor. Number 2. Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinjuu. Alright, here's the pitch. It's a period drama about Japanese verbal storytelling. Still with me? No? Well, you're making the same mistake I did. Rakugo is a traditional performance art where one person sits on a cushion and acts out entire stories using only a fan and a towel. When I first heard about this show, I thought, a show about Japanese storytelling I don't understand? That sounds like cultural homework. Delete from queue. What a catastrophically bad decision that was. This show is a masterpiece. It's a generational tragedy about art, legacy, jealousy, and love. The first episode hooked me with an ex-Yakuza begging to become an apprentice, and then the flashback arc destroyed me with a toxic friendship between 2 performers and the woman who loved them both. The voice acting is insane. Akira Ishida voices the protagonist from youth to old age, and performs multiple full Rakugo stories within the show, changing his voice for every character in the story within the story. It's like watching a one-man play inside an anime. This is capital A art. It's a love letter and a eulogy to a dying tradition, and it's one of the most emotionally rich shows I've ever experienced. The fact that I almost never watched this because it seemed too niche, I lose sleep over that. And finally, number 1, Legend of the Galactic Heroes. 110 episodes, made between 1988 and 1997. Looks like a PowerPoint presentation. Has over 600 named characters. For years, this sat on my plan to watch list, while I told myself, I'll get to it eventually. It sounded like homework. It's a space opera about politics and war. Cool. Sounds like reading a textbook with spaceships. Except it's not. It's a philosophical masterpiece about autocracy versus democracy, the cost of war, and whether history is shaped by great individuals or inevitable forces. It's Star Wars if Star Wars was written by Tolstoy. The story follows 2 rival geniuses, Reinhard, a blonde Napoleon leading an empire, and Yang Wen-li, a lazy genius defending a corrupt democracy he doesn't even believe in. And the show doesn't pick a side. It forces you to wrestle with the question, is a just dictatorship better than a broken democracy? Characters die randomly. There's no plot armor. Wars are won by logistics, not laser swords. And somehow, watching 2 fleets of 50,000 ships play 4D chess is more gripping than any action scene. This is the smartest, most mature anime ever made. And I spent years, literal years, watching inferior sci-fi when this magnum opus was waiting for me. The old animation, the intimidating length, the boring subject matter, none of it mattered. I just needed to trust the hype and dive in. I'll never forgive myself for waiting this long, but at least I finally made it. So there you have it, 10 shows I absolutely slept on, and now I have to live with the knowledge that I could have been a more cultured human being way earlier. Here's the thing though, it's never too late. That's kind of the whole point. Whether it's a 40-year-old boxing anime or a show about talking animals solving crimes, these masterpieces aren't going anywhere. They're just waiting for you to get over whatever silly reason you've been avoiding them. For me, it was art styles, old animation, and a truly impressive amount of laziness. What's your excuse? And if this video has you thinking about anime that should get the modern remake treatment, I've got the perfect video for you. Check out my breakdown of 10 anime series that deserve a proper remake. Link in the card above and in the description. Because some of these shows, they're perfect as is. But others? Oh, they need some help. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have about 6 more hidden gems to excavate. Peace.